Let's talk to our next guest. Kash Patel joins us. He is a former Department of Defense Chief of Staff, former Deputy Director of National Intelligence, and author of the book, which you need to read, Government Gangsters, the Deep State, the Truth, and the Battle for Our Democracy. Go get it right now. Kash Patel, thanks for being with us today. It's good to have you here.
Hey, thanks for letting me chat with Middle America. I look forward to this.
Yeah, I would say that it sometimes flyover country doesn't have to deal with the stuff that we see coming out of New York City. We've got Washington University here. We've got other protests taking place right around us. So we are in the heart of it once again. And certainly in St. Louis, we're not unaware of how protests can get inflamed, where people come in and crisis actors come in and make an issue bigger than it might have been if you would have handled it yourself locally. What do you think of these protests taking place across the country on college campuses?
Well, look, we have to start with the baseline that the radical left wing and the hypocrites forget. Peaceful protest is an enshrined part of our First Amendment. Of course, they didn't care about that when it relates to many of the instances of January 6th. And now when you look at it and you say people start attacking these protests, these hypocrites are saying, oh, my God, you guys are tearing down our political constitutional rights. No, if these peaceful protests turn into riots, where you barricade yourselves into college dormitories, where people who are innocent civilians and students can't go to class, where they feel threatened and held captive, and the police have to break in. And when you're throwing fire in the form of flames or the construction worker flare candles at innocent civilians, none of that is peaceful. You're disrupting people who are paying for a college education, and you are turning a peaceful protest into violence, and it must be stopped.
Yeah. I agree with that one wholeheartedly. Kash Patel with us right now. I can't help but look at these, especially the famous girl at the podium who's like, send us food and water. We need supplies. It's humanitarian. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. They are cosplaying being oppressed. Like, this is something that I truly believe that they've probably been raised in America, cradle to potentially, long live through this type of oppressive ideology grave where you feel like you were born into oppression and you're living and being educated at Columbia University in the United States of America. I mean, I think it's really offensive to people who are actually experiencing real oppression in the world.
Yeah, it's elitist form of Hippocratic oppression. It's not oppression. These people come from very extensive backgrounds, most of them very well off financially, and have never had to work or do anything in their lives. Got sent to these schools full of liberal professors. And the point here is this didn't happen overnight. This is a degradation of our higher education system because the radical left-wing agenda movement has hijacked them for the last decade plus to champion them because they see them as an election grab. They don't see them as human beings. They could care less about them. They see them as a way of getting votes, as a way of getting headlines. That's why George Soros got involved and funded this. Look, it's not a coincidence that every single protest across these college campuses in the country is using the exact same tent. It's not like they got together and said, hey, Amazon, we're going with that guy. This is a coordinated effort. And it's a coordinated effort, though, that they lost control of. I don't think they even, of course, wanted to turn to violence because it hurts their political narrative. And this has gone too far even for them, but now they can't stop it. And the problem is we have to stop it. And thank God we got men and women in blue that'll do it because Lord knows Joe Biden won't.
Yes, 100%. Kash Patel speaking with us right now. I can't help but notice this is happening on college campuses and looking at the people who are participating in this. And on the same day, I mean, it's like, I don't understand politically how you would make the decision to announce even more student loan forgiveness on the taxpayer dime. And today it's for the people who have been swindled with arts degrees. And I'm like, this is a scam, but it's not the scam you're looking for, Biden administration. I mean, it makes sense to me why the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and the far left progressives that control the Democratic Party would want to wipe away and make people continue to pursue these types of education because these useful idiots, now it's like a commodity.
It's the same election con job. It's the same election rig. All they want to do is go out there and buy votes with American taxpayer dollars. And they want to light our money on fire and say, oh, you owe $100, $200, $300, $400,000? Forgiven. Remember who forgave you that? Vote our way. Whether it's the border and they're letting illegals in and giving them money and hotels and ID cards, they want their votes. They could care less about them. They could care less about the fact that some of these folks are murdering innocent Americans and bringing in Chinese fentanyl and killing our loot. As long as they get their votes, they could care less. They're the real evil in Washington, D.C. They're the reason Americans hate Washington, D.C. And they are showing themselves to be the reason why Donald Trump is being so successful, because he's the exact opposite. He's not trying to buy your vote. He's going out there and earning your vote, talking about national security, border security, economic security. And, oh, by the way, let's end the forever wars and go get our hostages from overseas before we start pouring illegal immigrants back into this country. I mean, this is the difference, and you're seeing it every day.
We're speaking with Kash Patel. He's a former deputy director of national intelligence, former Department of Defense chief of staff as well. You know what it was like to be there with the Trump administration, especially towards the end of his administration. You are very well versed in what actually took place on January 6th of 2021. And there was a lot of peaceful protesting that took place there. There are people who are still waiting for the conclusion of their trials to take place. Is there an unfair treatment that's being highlighted right now in the January 6th participants? There are protesters. There are some people who went, extra far in the actions they took, and how we are reacting to these people breaking into buildings and taking buildings for their own right now on these college campuses.
Well, absolutely. It brings up a great point. It harkens me back to my career when I started as a public defender and then became a national security prosecutor. What we have always guarded against and what the Constitution forbids is a two-tier system of justice. That means we are treating everyone the same. We're not treating you this way for burglary and the other guy another way for burglary because you voted differently. That's unconstitutional. Now, some of those folks that participated in January 26th unfortunately went too far. They need to be punished and prosecuted. But the majority of them are being held without bond when that would never be the day for any other criminal activity, especially since they don't have any criminal history. They're being forced and steamrolled into plea deals to get the conviction rates up so the narrative, the election rig narrative, can continue about insurrection, which was disproven, not just by myself, but others from DOD when Donald Trump preemptively authorized 10 to 20,000 National Guards. And we spent the last 3 years fighting the Jan 6 committee, only to be proven right yet again because they buried the evidence. And all of this goes to one thing. They are going to rely on the convictions, baseless convictions of so many Jan 6ers to continue that narrative. Oh, we've convicted 1,000 people, they'll say, of the greatest attack on democracy. Okay, well, where are the arrests for the people that are firebombing cop cars? Where are the arrests for people that are throwing bricks that are men and women in uniform? Where are the arrests for people that are destroying college campuses and preventing other students from access to education that they paid for? Where are those arrests? And also, hey, Congress, every one of these institutions that is being ransacked by this radical left-wing violent agenda is being funded in part by taxpayer dollars.
Yes.
How are you not turning this off?
It's really infuriating. It's maddening. I think that American voters and taxpayers, they are watching what's taking place right now, and I think they're pretty disgusted by it. And I do think it's kind of forcing the question to look at who, if you don't have to spend much time in New York City to see the kind of crime that they're not willing to prosecute, but I guess they don't have time because they're so obsessed with Donald Trump and making sure that his trial gets a conviction. What is you've been watching this very closely, especially with the January 6th stuff and the prosecution of Donald Trump in that particular court case. Do you feel like the country is starting to look at those events differently based on a lot of the baselessness that's coming out of these court trials as they are starting to get more active through their process?
Yeah, I think the brilliance of Donald Trump, and only he can do this, is he's utilizing every unconstitutional charge, whether it's D.C., Florida, New York, Georgia, wherever, and he is showing the American public the two-tier system of justice we were just talking about. He is showing the weaponized form of DOJ and FBI, and not just at the federal level, but at the state level, as we're seeing in New York State. He is showing you every day that his constitutional freedom of speech liberties are being infringed by a judge who is allowing his daughter to profiteer off the very information flowing from his courtroom, which is also not permissible. But that shows you the hypocrisy in just the administrative application of justice. And then we get to its actual application, and you see that Donald Trump is being prosecuted baselessly for the classified documents case. But thankfully, we're seeing documents now come out through Judge Cannon in Florida, which shows what Donald Trump has been saying the entire time. The Biden White House coordinated this entire investigation. They lied to the world that they had any involvement in it, and they withheld evidence, just like the Jan 6 committee, just like the liars from Russiagate, withheld evidence of innocence and evidence that exonerates, in this instance, President Trump and the others, the American people. And it's a pattern that the American people are seeing. They're saying to the media, you lied to us at Russiagate. You lied to us on 51 Intel letter. You lied to us about insurrection, and you're lying to us now about Donald Trump's prosecution. I don't believe you anymore. And I think we're winning.
What would you anticipate would happen if the universities or the municipalities, whoever has the jurisdiction to do it, maybe the state, the attorney general, whatever, would prosecute the people who are protesting the way they're protesting on these campuses? If they were thrown in jail, if they were being held and the trials are being dragged out, just the way that the January 6th protesters are being held. If that became apples to apples to the protesters we're seeing right now, how would Protest Inc. react to that type of a situation?
You would see the exact opposite. You would see the ACLU rise up again. You would see the radical left wings who say due process and Constitution is enshrined for all, but they selectively apply it. They'd come in and say, look at what you're doing to these innocent poor students. You would see the mainstream media to continue the disinformation campaign. And that's what this whole thing about. Our entire conversation is about one thing. Their rigged job to get Donald Trump, because they can't beat him on his agenda. They can't beat him on his policy. They can't beat him on his first administration. So what do? They call him names. They attack his inner circle, and they put out disinformation after disinformation, like COVID origins and everything else, in the hopes that they can scare enough Americans into voting their way. And that's their tactic. We are going to put fear in you, and if you don't vote with us, we, the hypocrites, the actual government gangsters and swamp monsters, are going to come after you. And that's the thing that Donald Trump stands for. He's in their way. He's in everyone's way, and he's willing to take the arrows.
We're speaking with Kash Patel. I've got one last question for you. You said they have one goal, get Trump. Are they going to succeed?
No. And that's because of great programs like yours and Americans willing to stand up, even in cities that are controlled by liberal elitists. People are seeing every single day. It's no longer whether or not I like or dislike Donald Trump. It's whether or not I like the state of the country. Do I like spending $5 for peanut butter, $6 for eggs, $7 for gasoline? No, I got to feed my family. Am I secure? Do I like the fact that illegal immigrants are coming into my community and murdering people? Do I like the fact that children down the street are being given CCP fentanyl and dying? They see that Donald Trump provided security against all of that and ended the forever wars and secured the freedoms of our men and women in uniform and didn't send them off to mercilessly die for political activities like Joe Biden did in Afghanistan. That's what they want back. They're seeing it, and I think that's why we're going to win. But we got 6 months left. No let up. Pedal to the metal all the way through to November 5th.
Yeah, what I continue hearing is we need to be outside the margin of manipulation, and we need to keep working. Kash Patel, a real pleasure to have you on our show today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much. Have a great day out there.
Yep, you as well.